Adults in Vacation Bible School. And I'm really excited about this because I know that sometimes we don't talk a lot about, how to engage adults in Bible study. But tonight we want to have that focus, and we're going to give a two-pronged approach. But before we do that, I just want to introduce myself. I'm Sandy Coelho, and I serve as the Leadership Development Director here at the Baptist Convention of New England. And tonight I'm joined by a good friend and ministry partner, Ron Mills, who's at Christian Fellowship Church in Londonderry, New Hampshire. Welcome, Ron.
Welcome. Good to be here.
Yeah, Ron's been a team member for a long time. 20 plus years. Funny, when I got to the Baptist Convention of New England, I actually inherited Ron and his wife as team members, and so have been able to have a long friendship as well as ministry partnership. So it's been great. So, as I said, we're going to talk about how to engage adults, and we're going to do it in two parts. Ron's going to focus on how to engage adults in Bible study, because again, I think sometimes we think about Vacation Bible School is just for the kids. And I want us to hopefully change our thinking about that and realize that Vacation Bible School is a great opportunity to reach adults. I tell people all the time that our adult Vacation Bible School class is usually the largest class in our Vacation Bible School. The last year, not COVID year, but the year before, when we had Vacation Bible School, we had 21 adults in our Vacation Bible School adult class, and it was just phenomenal. And so I think that it's a secret that a lot of people don't engage with. So, I hope that you'll think about that as Ron is talking about how to engage adults in Bible study. And then I'm going to come back around after Ron's done, and I'm going to talk about how to engage your adults to volunteer in Vacation Bible School. So some people will say to us all the time, hey, we don't have enough volunteers. And so I want to give you some really good principles, I hope, to help engage your adults to volunteer in Vacation Bible School. So I'm going to disappear for a moment, and Ron is going to jump right in, and he's going to talk about engaging your adults in Bible study. So take it away, Ron.
Okay, thank you, Sandy. All right. Well, as you can see, about adult VBS, I am going to be using a format from Lifeway curriculum. You may not be using that this year in your curriculum, but what I'm going to be talking about can be used in Vacation Bible School, as well as any adult class that you might have. Hey, adult VBS, really? I mean, you heard Sandy say adults do VBS. I mean, isn't VBS for kids? Well, no, yes, we adults can do VBS. And what I want to do this evening, as I said, I'm going to talk a little bit about VBS curriculum from Lifeway, but it will retain to all curriculum that you might use, or how to engage your adults in your classroom. Well, so I'm going to give you 6 keys to engaging adults in Bible study. And the first one is adults like to have fun. We go, well, I'm going to get into it a little. Let me just leave it with that. Adults like to have fun, and adults require a variety of learning skills. Now, I'm going to go through a few of them with you. The first is verbal and visual. These are the skills, these are the learning styles that most adults will use in their Sunday school class, and they leave it at that. They're the most popular. I've studied all week. I'm going to give you what I studied, and I might throw up a PowerPoint. I might throw up a picture or something. So this is where adult Bible study, it can be fun, but you lose a lot of people. Let me give you some of the other ways that we can interact and engage our participants. We can do it in a relational. Have an icebreaker at the beginning of your Sunday school or your VBS lesson. So it'll be a relational interaction, get to know each other. People like to get to know each other. We have the reflective. Also invite learners to reflect on passages of scripture or other content for reflective learning. Also, we have logical learners. Now, don't leave out problem solving in a classroom for logical learners. They like to investigate and reason and review and analyze things. Then we have our physical learners, and they can be asked to act out Bible study, whatever characters, or do something active with them. Get them up out of their chairs and have them go to the wall and write or whatever. Then we have musical learning, and this is where I might fall short a lot. I mean, I'm not very musically inclined and all, but you can have it playing in the background. You can even sing if you find someone in there, sing, and it'll help musical learners get involved. And then we have natural learners, and nature can be introduced into the Bible study through pictures or other visual aids, or even outside. So these are all great ways to help your VBS as well as any other adult class you might be has. So I want you to keep your well of teaching ideas filled so that you don't fall into a teaching slump, if you will. Strengthen your teaching and engage learners through the effective use of verbal and visual teaching. That's the two styles we talked about first. But don't forget to incorporate these other 6 styles, because you're missing out on reaching some people if you do. So invite learners to debate an issue. These are ways that you can help them in a VBS setting. And I'm going to give you some ideas of how I think you should do the adults in a VBS setting in a minute. But invite learners to debate an issue. Be transparent with sharing how a particular scripture verse or a passage has meaning in your personal life. And then ask the participants, how has God's word affected you in your walk? So read several different versions or translations. Last Wednesday night at Bible study, we probably had 3 or 4 different translations, and it just helps us understand a little bit of the passage. So read the passage or a verse more than once and place an emphasis on different words each time. You will get the participants in the class excited about being there. So use brainstorming for ideas or applying passages or resolving life issues. I think at the end, I'll share with you a little bit of application of what your students or your adult people will want to hear. So use the following directives for verbal teaching. Give examples, interpret, read, discuss, convince. We could go on and on with this list, but there's so much in keeping the classroom of adults occupied, more than just standing up in front of them and almost preaching to them, if you will. So just remember these 8 different styles. So, okay. Keys to a teaching adults: they like to have fun, they require a variety of learning styles, and adults enjoy crafts, recreation, and music. Now, this is one of the things that Lifeway puts in their curriculum, and their VBS curriculum this year. They have a lot of crafts for adults to do, recreation ideas and music ideas. There's a CD in there for it. Our adults are right now making cards and signing cards for a nursing home. They enjoy sitting down and doing this craft, and they'll be presenting next week to a nursing home before Easter. So yes, adults like to do crafts too, not just the kids. But don't assume that adults are familiar with the Bible or church language. And what I mean by that, it's all right to use words, but let me just give you a simple format of justified, sanctified, glorified. I mean, if you're going to use that, and there's a lot more bigger words in there that I could use too, but if you're going to use the big words, explain them to your class, and so that they understand. Don't assume that all adults are familiar with the language. You know, they're looking sometimes in all the wrong places. And if we don't give them the right answer, they're going to find the wrong answer. So Jeremiah 29:13, the VBS theme this year, if you will seek me, you will find me when you search for me with all your heart. So that's a great scripture verse to be studying. And yes, seek truth, find Jesus. So don't assume that adults are familiar with the Bible or church language, and don't assume adults have a relationship with Jesus Christ. Just be sensitive to them, because not all of them do. And don't assume adults understand how to continue the learning experience at home. Now, these are things for teachers to understand, to keep their class together and knitted. Now, too many adult teachers use the lecture method as the primary means of communication in their class. Proverbs 27:17, iron sharpens iron, and one person should sharpen another. Great verse to be thinking about. Commit to using printed curriculum that cover Bible study, and that cover Bible systematically also. One of the advantages of having an adult class is they can cover all the Bible systematically. This kind of coverage will not happen if adult teachers are allowed to choose their own curriculum. And this happens a lot. Systematic coverage can only happen when teachers follow a printed curriculum that covers the entire Bible. Again, curriculum, especially in Lifeway curriculum that I know of, I'm more familiar with Lifeway curriculum than most. It goes right from the beginning, and it'll help you. Our theme in VBS this year starts in the Old Testament. It's threaded into the New Testament, so you know where you're going, and it really helps you understand, and the students will get involved, as we'll see. Teacher preparation is very important, so teachers should know how to use a printed curriculum. It's not meant to substitute or to be a substitute for the Bible, but rather it's a guide to help us with our lessons. It's much like a pastor using commentaries to help in his preparation of his sermon. So those are a few things. So engage someone to care for the needs of the class members. If you have the ownership is a good way of putting it. If you have a bunch of people, 6, 12, whatever, how many ever you have at your VBS, Sandy said she had 21, engage those people in caring for one another. Take time at the beginning of each class to ask for prayer requests. Often these requests will reveal the needs and special situations. Then we need to follow up on those situations, or the person that you have assigned to do that, and you'll know pretty much of some of the people in the class that would be real good for that, and they can follow up on these special situations, and people are going to feel like, wow, I'm part of a group, and I want to be there. So this is important. Involve the class members in interactive Bible studies. Now, what do I mean by that? Again, too many teachers just get up there and we'll see in a minute, they just tell you what they have studied all week. So they use the lecture method as the primary means of communication in their time. They lecture it does have a place in a Sunday school or a VBS setting or any type of a Bible study. Lecture does have a place, just not all lecture all the time. Now, I've been in a lot of Sunday school classes, a lot of Bible studies, and sometimes it can get very boring if that's the means that the teacher is going to do, and the members in the class just get disenchanted maybe, and they move on. So rather, we need to utilize the environment or involvement, if you will, format. So what is that? Moving away from lecture format to an involvement format first requires a change of our mind. I'm going to give you two approaches to teaching adults the Bible. Okay, so in the first approach, I study the Bible text thoroughly and then tell my students all that I have learned in that setting. In the second approach, I still study the Bible text thoroughly, but then I plan ways for my students to discover what I have found during the week of study, or what I have found. Just give it to them. Don't lecture it to them, but just give it to them. And so let me put that way. When I plan ways for my students to discover what I have learned, that's a better way of saying it. When I discover what I have learned during the week. So which approach do you think will be more interesting and valuable for our adult learners? Well, I think the second, when they can discover what I have studied all week for, and they can discover what I have found that week in that setting. So same, at VBS, we'll be doing day one. We'll be looking at different things, and we will thread Isaiah's teachings with the New Testament teachings, and we'll see and have people discover it for themselves. When we adopt this mindset, we are well on our way to involvement teaching, and people will be really excited to be there. Engaged adults in a meaningful application. Let me just give you an example. Too many lessons on Jonah have left Jonah at Nineveh and never brought the truths of Jonah out to the 21st century. So no wonder, if you will, why people just go somewhere else to find something a little more relevant. So we need to spend the majority of our time in interactive Bible study. This is what we do. This is what VBS will be doing. This is what the students will be doing. We will be giving them a way of doing it. I like to put it this way. Let me just give you a quick example of say, John 3:16. If you're going to be reading this in a Bible setting or a VBS setting or whatever the scripture is, instead of me telling them again what it means, I like to take the approach, what does that say to you? And again, you're getting the participation from the class, and they're going to be excited about being there. So, but we do need to spend the majority of our time in the Bibles, in interactive Bible study itself. But we must also lead the students to make meaningful applications. A guiding verse for me for several decades has been James 1:22. But be doers of the word and not just hearers only. So I see it that we must lead our students to be doers of the word and not just hearers of it. So again, it's involvement. Everybody's involved. Um, Notice I said lead our students to make meaningful applications. I didn't say tell the students meaningful applications. This is where we get into the lecture part versus the interactive part or the involvement part of it. And if we can lead our students to see how they should respond, they will be more likely to make the response and join us back. In all of this, if you didn't get anything out of it all, I would like you to remember to not just get up there and stand there and give them a lecture or a visual. Use the other 6 applications of the learning styles to help everybody get involved. And don't be, I mean, I know we studied all week, but again, let the application come from them. Have discussion of what does this say to you? How would you take this scripture to bring it into the 21st century? The more we can get people involved, the better. Now, let me give you a few examples of getting people involved in VBS. I would like to see adult VBS for all teachers. Now, this is just a few ideas. All teachers that are going to be teaching VBS ahead of time. You can do it a week before, 2 weeks before. You can do it one day a week for a month before or whatever. Then they will be very worded on what they're going to expect in a VBS class. Or how about doing a VBS class for the parents of the children that are coming? I know a lot of VBS. In fact, I was asked this question the other day. With the start of our VBS, we're doing it at the end of June. And one woman said to me, well, everybody does it at the end of June. And I said, well, I am not doing it so that kids can go from this church to this church to this church. I'm doing it so we can outreach into the community. So I thought, what better way to outreach into the community and offer something for the parents at the same time. And also after that, the curriculum, and I'll end on this, the curriculum from Lifeway's VBS also has a parent seminar afterwards. And I think this would be very helpful to get the people involved in the VBS.
Yeah, good stuff. So those of you that are on the, on our webinar here, in the chat box, what's something that meaningful that you like about Bible study as an adult? What's something that that you really, that's meaningful to you, that when you're teaching, you make sure that you integrate it as part of your class? Because I loved what you said, Ron, that screen with all the different learning styles. I mean, that is just so, I think, important, because I do think as teachers, we're quick to do just the listening part,
Well, most definitely, we're very quick to give the information that we have learned all week and just throw it out at them,
Right.
and not giving them the responsibility to react to what the scripture says.
Correct.
So you're kind of leaving the class out. You're just standing there up in front of them and you're forgetting. And people, they don't get involved that way, and they'll just,
Yeah, they just.
So you need to make it fun for them. The adults
Right.
like to have fun.
Right. Yeah. Because, those are the meaningful. That is just so meaningful when we can do that, when we can make sure that we're involving them.
Yes.
Again, and I loved what you said about the, which I really liked. I appreciated what you said about the application, because
Yeah.
how many times do we teach? And I say this if you're teaching children too, we spend a lot of time teaching information. And I think
Yes.
we need to remember, we need to be teaching for, we need to be teaching for transformation.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's so important. One of our guests says, not just delivering the lesson, but engaging the group as a whole.
Amen.
So I appreciate that. You know, and I think that, and she also says you want to interject, but a lesson dictated doesn't allow that. So, you know, and I think that's another reason why, you know, whatever curriculum you use, and I agree, I think that a lot of times, and if you don't have curriculum, I tell people on these webinars all the time, just put something in the chat and I'll be happy to send you some free curriculum. We have
Yeah.
children's curriculum and youth curriculum and adult curriculum that I have in my office that I'd be happy to share for free. We'll mail it to you because that really does help,
Most
you know,
definitely.
so that you're, you know, integrating that into what you're teaching. So I really like that. All right. So if you have questions for Ron, he's going to stick around. He's going to disappear for a moment while I teach for a bit. And so I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to talk about that other part of, you know, engaging adults. And that's going to be in the volunteering part. So, so what I want you to think about now is I want you to just kind of shift your thinking just a tad bit. And I want you to answer this question. You're a volunteer. I know you're a volunteer. So, as a volunteer, what is one thing that you want? What's one thing that you want as a volunteer? What's one thing you want your leader to know that as a volunteer you want this? So write that in your chat because I want to talk a little bit about that because I think it's so very important that as leaders, we understand what the people who are volunteering with us want. So what do you think? What is one thing that you want as a volunteer? And write that in the chat box. And I'm going to pay attention. And I'm going to look. All right. Somebody wants training. Okay, thank you. That's a good one. What else do you want as a volunteer? Seems like a hard question, huh? Seems like a hard question. But I want you to know that the one who wrote training, that's one of the things that volunteers want. Let me tell you a couple of things that volunteers want. Volunteers want to make sure that you're going to give them a meaningful task, that the task, you know, that the job that you're asking them to do is meaningful and important. So that's one thing that a volunteer is looking for. They want to receive training and supervision to enable them to do their task well. Because it's the heart of every volunteer to volunteer well. I know when I volunteer to do something, I mean, I really throw my heart and soul into it because I'm not going to say yes to something that I'm not passionate about, that I don't feel like I'm going to make a difference. And that's what I'm meaning when I say they want a meaningful task. They want to know that they're making a difference, that they're making an impact. Volunteers also want to be involved in the planning and the evaluating of the program. So, you know, whatever role that you give them, you know, as a leader, we short ourselves the wisdom of our volunteers. And so one of the things volunteers want is they want to be involved in the planning. They want to be involved in that evaluation. They want to give you feedback. So that's another thing that volunteers want. They also want to be regarded as unique. And I don't know about you, but when I ask somebody to volunteer, I ask somebody to volunteer because they have a unique skill set that I really believe I need for my ministry, for the, you know, for the role that I'm doing. This coming weekend, our church is going to be giving out, I think, 150 Easter egg hunt kits to our community. And as you can imagine, so that's 150 families. So that's more than 250 children that will be, serving. And I can't do it by myself. Now, I'm the big picture person and I can be the detail person too, but I would be totally, wrung out if I did it all by myself. So one of the things we wanted to put in our kits was craft kits. So, and I'm not a crafty person, but I know a lady in our church who is a crafty person, and I put her right to work. And she's a unique person because she loves crafts. And she came up with 250 craft packs for kids. We had other people helping her, but you know what? She had a task, wasn't in my wheelhouse, but I had this vision that I wanted to share. And she helped me to make sure that vision, came forward because she had a unique skill set that I really, truly needed. So they want to be regarded as unique. And they also want to be seen as a valued member of a team. They want to be part of a team. And so that's what volunteers want. And so as I'm talking for the next few minutes about some principles that I hope that you'll think about when you're helping volunteers get involved, you'll kind of keep these in the forefront of your mind. So I hope it's helpful. And don't hesitate to write some comments in the chat box. I'll try to keep those up front here. If you have a question, you go ahead, write that into the chat box, and I'll try to integrate that too as I am talking for the next few minutes. First of all, let's begin with prayer. Let's begin with prayer. We say we're going to pray. I do it myself. I say I'm going to pray, and then what do? I go off to do something because it becomes urgent. But, whatever it is that you want to be doing, you need to bathe it in prayer, and that needs to be the key. And, first I need to bring my needs and my petitions, straight to the Lord. That's my first, thought needs to be, I need to make sure that I'm bringing that, those things that are needed here to the Lord, and asking the Lord, should our church do this? Should I be involved in this? Those are all things that it's good to talk to the Lord about. I think a lot of times, even myself included, sometimes I rush off after I've prayed because I have this grandiose idea. I've got this great idea, and I think that, oh, if it's grand to me, guess what? The Lord's going to just love that. And a lot of times he does. Don't get me wrong. A lot of times he does. But sometimes I have to wait on the Lord, and I need to listen, to the Lord before I just run off and kind of do my own thing. And so I think it's important that we remember, to bathe whatever you're doing in prayer, and be sure to involve others to pray. I have a really good friend, and whenever I'm going to start a ministry or, start a new project like this Easter egg hunt kit, this just kind of came out of the blue because our church always did an Easter egg hunt, an extravaganza out in the park. And, with COVID, we can't do that. So COVID last year got us really quickly because it happened in March. And so we couldn't do anything last year because we just couldn't. But, the Lord started germinating something in me a couple of months ago about, well, why couldn't we do something else? And so that's how this Easter egg hunt kit came together. But I didn't say anything for many, many weeks because I wanted to make sure that I had confirmation about my involvement from the Lord first. And so I enlisted other people to pray with me about that. So I think that you need to make sure that whatever you do, that becomes a very important component of your ministry. And, whether it's an ongoing ministry or something like this Easter egg hunt that we're doing, that's only going to be one day, but still takes a lot of time. Number two, volunteers want to get engaged, but they need a vision. They need someone, okay? Volunteers need someone, a leader who really leads. And a leader is one who has the ability to inspire and influence the people that they're leading so that they can engage them. A great leader creates really high performance teams. Really think about that. The best experiences you've had in volunteering, trust me, you'll say to me, it's because the person has the ability to bring us together as a team. Another thing that, when you're creating this vision, a great leader, they foster loyalty and greater commitment. Volunteers are going to go above and beyond for you as a leader if you can paint that vision for them and they want to do it. So for example, last night was our night to put all these 150 bags together, right? And it's on a Wednesday night. People are busy, but we had 8 people in our church. We have a little church of 65 usually on a Sunday morning. And because of COVID, we're probably 27 to 30. But we had 8 people come out last night to help us put the bags together. And I'll tell you, we got there at 5 o'clock and we didn't leave there till 9 o'clock. And at about 8 o'clock, I said, okay, I think you've all done enough. And one lady said, no, she said, you're not going to staple these craft bags yourself. We're going to stay here and we're going to do this for you. And I really believe, and I'm not bragging on myself, but it's because I made sure all of the stuff was there. I made sure that I was prepared for them and they had a good experience for that. And I think as a leader, we can encourage our, volunteers through the fact that, we're ready for them. And volunteers are going to have a greater commitment and more loyalty to you as a leader if you paint the vision and you're there for them. Also, when we create that vision, you have better retention. Your volunteers are going to keep coming back year after year after year because your vision is going to be so inspiring and captivating that they're going to want to be a part of this. Now, if you mark my words, if Saturday goes well at our Easter egg hunt kit distribution, those people that have volunteered are going to want to be a part of it next year because they're going to have really bought into the vision of what the Lord gave to me a few months ago. Another piece of being a volunteer is, we need to have a plan. We need to have a plan and we need to prepare for the volunteer work, whatever work you have. Mine is right now is this Easter egg hunt kit, and I have to do a lot of planning. But by the same token, I want to get them to be part of the planning. And a lot of it is, and I was thinking about this to myself as I was walking downstairs in my office today, and I was thinking about doing tonight, and I thought to myself, a lot of times as a leader, it's so much easier to do it myself. But you know what? That's very counterproductive. I have to make sure that I'm engaging my volunteers in their unique ways. And even though their ways are not going to be the way I would do it, they need to be a part of the vision and they need to be a part of the plan. And I need to get ready for them. I need to make sure that I'm ready for them and that they're part of the planning, because trust me, if they have ownership, guess what? They're going to be there. Just like the lady who took ownership of these craft kits for my thing. She can't wait to get there at 8 o'clock on Saturday morning. We don't start till 10, but she's going to be there at 8 o'clock because she's excited. And she feels ownership of that. I have no ownership of those craft kits, but she does. And so that's the way we keep our volunteers involved. Another thing, to engage volunteers is communication. And I have to say, I love this picture because communication is the key. And we need to make sure that we're keeping our volunteers in the loop. They want to know about changes. They want to know about things coming up in the ministry. They don't want to be blindsided if they're asked about something that you made public, right? And they're just all of a sudden hearing about it from people, that aren't in leadership. That's the worst thing you can do. So don't ever make public announcements until all your volunteers have been notified. It's so important to keep them in the loop because again, they want to be a part of it, but if you don't include them in communications, then it's really tough, and you'll know that they're probably not going to be involved again because they feel like communication is pretty weak. So we have to make sure that communication is key. Next one is expectations. And I have this because it's really what I want to talk about is written job descriptions. I can't tell you how important it is to have a written job description for your volunteers because that's a great avenue to communication. Because when you have a written job description, what happens is you have a point and you're saying, this is what I need from you, and you give it to them, allow them to pray about it, discuss, talk about it, and go back and forth. But your volunteers need to know what's the scope and what's the expectations, what you're asking them to do. So that's important, a written job description. Training. One of you wrote that down, that training is important. And our volunteers want training. Sometimes we have to deliver it in a different way. Because I know a lot of you say, well, yeah, but I can't get people to come. True enough, because I have the same exact problem. So nowadays we have to figure out how to do training a little different. Maybe it's on a webinar format like this. Maybe you get in your little Zoom room and you record yourself doing a little training and then send it all out to your people. Maybe it's a 15-minute video, but it's training and it's saying the same thing to everyone. So training is so important to your volunteers because again, it builds that community. It really, truly does. And the other thing we have to provide is support. And what I mean by support is your leaders, your volunteers need to know that you're going to support them by providing them curriculum, that you're going to support them through providing supplies and other needs that they have. With this Easter egg, hunt that we're doing, I had to make sure I had all the craft supplies for, my folks. We've got snacks coming. I have to make sure I provide that for all of them so that they know when they get there Saturday, everything's going to be there. They're not going to have to be, panicking. They're not going to see me panicking because again, I'm going to provide the support that they need to be a part of a good team. And then finally, I would say as a leader of volunteers, we need to make sure that we are showing appreciation, and we need to make sure we find regular and creative ways to show our appreciation and gratitude to our volunteers. And, some of those things might be, find out what their favorite candy bar is, and leave it on their table at Vacation Bible School, or, send them a note, or take them out for a cup of coffee, or, fill in the blank. There's all sorts of things I think we can do. And I know we're busy, but you need to make sure that as a leader that you're putting in time for your volunteers to be appreciated, and do it during the congregation. Brag on them. I can't wait for Sunday to do my announcements on this Sunday. I'm going to brag on all my volunteers that were there on Saturday helping out. That's what I'm going to do as a leader. I'm going to brag on them. And I'm hoping next year, guess what? They're gonna come back because they're going to be excited about what we do. So that's it in a nutshell when it comes to volunteers and how to engage your folks and volunteers.